welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and we are back for another episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and this is season 5, and this is episode 2, and this is called Law and Out of Order. And this episode was good to me. I cackled a lot. I got emotional a little bit. It was just all over the place, just how Salt Lake City does it. Before we get into the episode, though, I do want to kind of address the elephant in the room. I know you guys are used to me sometimes being on camera, sometimes not being on camera. Let me know in the comments if, like, you're okay with me just, like, not addressing it and just moving forward and just getting to the recap. I kind of just like to, like, be as fully transparent when it comes to my channel as I can. And for those who don't know, I think I've shared, a little bit that I've had some family issues going on. So I'm actually out of town, being close to my family, hanging out. And so I'm actually not at my computer. So I did not bring my whole setup because I just wanted to be fully engaged. But I kind of just left it out there to, if I have time to watch the shows and review it, I'll do it. And so unfortunately, I have time, but it's not necessarily a great thing that I have the time, but I do have the time. So that's what we're doing. And I'm trying to just watching the shows and trying to help get my mind off things. But yeah, so that's why I'm not on camera. I'll be back hopefully on camera next week. So you're going to get this recap. And I'm also going to, of course, recap the Real Housewives of, Miami, the season finale. We're going to get to that. So about time I get back, I'm going to edit everything, but I still won't have it in video format. But I just kind of wanted to let you know that's what's going on. That's also why things are delayed, because I'm not in town. I don't get back until later on this weekend. So that's kind of what the haps is and what's going on. But about time you're watching this or listening to this, I'll be back. So yeah. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode because this was good. Okay, so the episode starts where it's the next day of their camping trip, and we kind of do a recap of their whole Blair Witch thing, and everyone's asking where Meredith is, and of course Meredith does eventually pop up. She's like, come on now, like, I wasn't going to go anywhere. That would have been too much of a liability for any of us to get hurt. And it was kind of nice and cute. And so then after that, then we see that the ladies then do all get up and they're looking at all the nature. There apparently are animals everywhere, and they're just kind of like in all of that. And then from there, once we see that, then we have it where then we see the ladies then go to basically get to, I'm trying to think where we're at with this. We see the ladies are then doing breakfast, and Bronwyn is trying to cook this steak, and she does not look like she knows how to cook, and Mary kind of calls it out. And Bronwyn, being the self-deprecating kind of girl she is, she's like, yeah, no, I wouldn't trust my cooking either. I don't cook. And so then Meredith takes it over. But then from there, once that happens, then they're all sitting in a campfire. And then once they're at the campfire, we then do see that we have, hold on. We have Heather opening up about becoming an empty nester and her struggles with being okay with it. She's actually overly okay with it, and at the point where she actually can't wait for these girls to go and be independent women. And it has to do with her upbringing and how she basically was the single mom. And we also find out a little bit more insight that it sounds like she was a single mom even when she was married. Like, that was just always the thing. Like, she was a single mom because of, like, the patriarchy of the culture that according to her, the culture that she knew her whole entire life. And she basically did it all with a smile on her face, even though she was struggling. And now she's finally ready to be able to finally find herself, which actually we kind of already somewhat knew this story, but her bringing it out and kind of saying it actually sheds more light of why Heather's the way she is. And that's kind of the reason why I feel like, even though I cannot stand Heather at times on this show, she's so necessary, because we see these are the parts of Heather that I realize, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, you basically, from my standpoint, watching it's clear that her upbringing stunted her growth. And we see it clearly with Brittany. Her growth is stunted and it seems like that might be just a thing that with a lot of the women who are part of that culture, and the culture of it, that is kind of what it seems it does, because it is kind of backwards, like, especially with how society is today. But anyway, so she's just kind of talking about how she just can't wait, and she has this guilt about that feeling. And Bronwyn tries to intervene and relate, and it doesn't land. And honestly, I'm not going to hold you. Even the way Bronwyn said it, because I feel like Bronwyn is someone who, because she's trying so hard to be accepted, things come out wrong. So in this case, I kind of agree. It did come out wrong. It came out like she was like, well, I don't feel that way. I feel great about this because, like, I have the opposite feeling to the point where I want my kids to, like, stay with me. And I even had the boyfriend move in and all that. And so, of course, Heather took it the wrong way. And also giving the history that Heather and Bronwyn have not really got along, but that's more of a Heather thing. It didn't land. And Bronwyn at that moment kind of realized it wasn't landing, but she didn't really try that hard to clean it up at the moment. And yeah, so it was an interesting thing. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Heather does not really care for Bronwyn, so it wasn't going to land the way she thought it was going to land. I think they already had a solid friendship, and she would have said it that way, the way she said it. Heather would have given her the benefit of the doubt and realized, okay, this is not her making it about me. But that's kind of, I ain't gonna hold you. I kind of have a friend that's like that right now that I'm cool with and I'm trying to build a friendship with. But there's just certain things that she does that I don't know if she realizes it, but it comes off like where she just kind of takes over things and makes things about her. And I think part of it, when you have that feeling, is partly that could be an accurate feeling, but part of it can be your own insecurities, or if you're going through your own stuff. And I know in my case, it's not really me being insecure. It's more or less I'm going through my own thing. So people who don't really word things properly, I don't really have a lot of patience for right now. And I know that about me. So, and so I don't really take what she says to heart, like my friend that I have that kind of does a similar thing. It's more or less she's awkward and she's trying to be accepted. And I know that's what that is, but it just, a lot of times she says things, I'm like, oh man, that came out really bad. And that's kind of what I got from the scene a little bit. But anyway, so then after that, Whitney does also chime in and says, yeah, I kind of have a similar feeling. I'm kind of in between you and like what Bronwyn has going on. Because Whitney, with her failed businesses, she actually wants to reevaluate and be able to be more of a stay-at-home mom, but she can't. She has to really put, foot to throttle and try to make something out of nothing and, recoup as soon as possible. So she's actually going to be spending less and less time with her daughters. And so that's kind of where she's at. And that's kind of where they leave it at. And then shortly after that, the ladies do try to leave this campground. And they're having a tough time leaving the campground because one of the tires got stuck. And so they all end up proceeding to go outside and push the car or push the RV. Mine is Mary. Mary's like, I ain't doing that. And so she basically, one more thing. Before that, the other thing that happened in this scene, I almost forgot to mention, is that Mary also, Whitney asked Mary about how things are going with Robert. And Mary kind of goes into it a little bit, but not too much. She kind of says, it's ups and downs, kind of a generic answer. But she does use this opportunity to speak Heather to life. And it's like, with everything that's going on with Robert Jr., I would not be able to do that alone. And so the fact that you raised 3 children on your own, Heather, I think that's something to be proud of, and I don't think you should have any guilt towards any of your feelings. You need to acknowledge your feelings and validate your feelings, and that's kind of where they leave it at before they then do try to leave, and then they couldn't leave, and then they end up pushing the car out of like the area where it was stuck, and they were able to move on. And that's so overall, this was a good start of the show. All right, so next we have a mini Housewives montage where we see that we have Whitney and she is with her 2 children, and I think they're riding like dirt bikes while she's running after them. And then we see Angie and Electra, they're walking the dogs, and they're kind of just like people and dog watching. And then we have Meredith and Seth, and they are outside of their rental, and they're looking at like the wild turkeys. And so then from there, we do actually end up at our first official scene. And it's the first scene that we have Lisa Barlow. She is back. So that whatever held her up from filming, clearly that wasn't a very long thing. And Heather, on the way to seeing Lisa Barlow, though, she does contact Angie, and they're talking really about the event that they're going to be going to this evening. And this is a lady by the name of Amy, who's like a Utah socialite, and they're going to this party. And so that is going to be the main event of this episode, going to this party. So then we do see then that Heather does meet Lisa for lunch, and Heather wastes no time and carries a bone. I'll just fully be transparent. That is literally what happened. She wastes 0 time and immediately goes to carrying the bone. And so what we end up having here is that Heather basically kind of recaps the trip of what they end up doing, and immediately throws Bronwyn under the bus, mainly, but then everyone else she does end up throwing under the bus as well. She doesn't really mention Brittany at all, and really Brittany was the one who was riding the hardest for Lisa, even more than Heather to a certain extreme. And so I know to me it seems like by design Heather did not mention that, because it seems like everyone, really Brittany had Lisa's back more than even Heather did. So of course Heather's making herself sound good, like she was the one who was the only one that had her back while everyone else was throwing her under the bus. She said Meredith was being Meredith. Meredith was, basically taking her side a little bit, but then didn't. Lisa was disappointed by that, and then she was disappointed about the Angie thing of it all. She thought her and Angie were in a good place. And then a little bit of the why people act towards Lisa the way they do, and even Heather kind of called it out, is that Lisa, when she was talking about that, she's like, I live a different lifestyle than you all. So I don't understand. I understand why you guys would not understand, because I live a different lifestyle than the rest of you guys. Sorry, let me talk better. I live a different lifestyle than you guys, so you guys would not understand. I'm Lisa Barlow, so why would you understand that I live a different lifestyle? And so that's kind of how she was talking. And really, Heather was just like, and see, this is a lot of people's problem. You come off as elitist at times, which she definitely was coming off elitist. And so it makes it tough for us to want to connect. She's like, dude, I understand you don't want to come off as like normal or basic, really basic, but it's okay to be basic sometimes. And that is the truth. I feel like when it comes to a lot of people, and I noticed this mainly, respectfully, it's mainly white people I notice, white women, they'll make themselves sound more grand than what they are. And it's like, dude, it's okay to be basic. There's some things in life, basic normal stuff is just basic normal stuff. Not everything needs to be jazzed up, like, But anyway, so Lisa, you could tell in this conversation back and forth that she feels hurt. And then Heather is just making it worse, but she's like, understand how you would, feel bad about all your friends stabbing you in the back. It's like, girl, Heather and her dramatics, this is part of the problem in her bone carrying. Like, this is why we begin on you, Heather, because girl, you made it sound way worse than what it was. Really, all it was, and you already saw the last episode, was really just Bronwyn and Angie and even like Whitney to a certain degree. And that was it. But anyway, so Lisa is really upset and she's just like, yeah, I will be confronting the ladies at Amy's party. So no problems. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Anyway, that's pretty much all that happens here. Next, we see Bronwyn and Whitney, and they're at the ski resort, and they are basically, at the ski lift and stuff, talking for a little bit, and then they get finished. I think it looks like Whitney was snowboarding while Bronwyn was skiing, but neither here nor there. They then basically recap the trip and how much fun the trip was, and they talk about, and Bronwyn talks about how she really wants to clear things up and be good with Heather. But it just seems like Heather just wants to stay not good with her. But also, Bronwyn does take some accountability. She's like, look, I understand how it's clear when I was talking, she received it incorrectly, and I want to clean it up. And so Whitney, of course, is for it. She's like, yeah, I would love for you guys to clear it up. And Whitney was just like, kind of just happy because she wants them two to get along clearly. And Bronwyn at first said that they were. She's like, it's like we take 2 steps forward, like we take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And so anyway, they talk about that. And then from there, they do end up talking about Lisa again and the lawsuits of it all. And how it was kind of funny that she found it funny how in one of the lawsuits, it mentions how Lisa did not want her husband to know about some of the things that were going on, which is quite interesting. And hold on to that tidbit because that's definitely going to come up later on. So that's why that kind of gets brought up. And then from there, that's kind of all that happens here. Okay, so next we have this scene, and this was a difficult scene to watch just because, the things I have going on with my personal life. I'm not going to hold you. The main reason why I want to watch the Housewives is because I'm looking for a distraction. So when things get, right now, the way things are, with things getting serious with my own life, seeing it on screen, it hits me a little bit differently than it would in the past, really. But either way, I value how important that this scene is. And hopefully there is a happy ending to this, but right now we're not going to see that right now, and it's going to take some time because if you think about it, let me talk about the scene. So this next scene is Mary, and this is with Robert Jr. So with this situation, we know this is not going to be an overnight thing where things are going to be all good. It's going to take some time, especially for how long he's been abusing drugs. And they kind of get into it. He kind of does kind of live talk about how he's feeling. He feels lost still. And I think from his standpoint, he thought once he got clean, he was going to feel better. And no, that's not how that goes, unfortunately. And he's learning the hard way. That's not how that goes because he has to cut off his friends. He's talking about how now everyone he thought were his friends, he had to cut off. And so now he's in total isolation. And this is the part that I wasn't so sure or quite understood why that's a thing so much. I don't think that's the answer that he should be in isolation either. I think he needs to find new people to be friends with and support. He needs to find his new norm, but he feels kind of stuck still. And so, he basically said his habits were a routine, it was a ritual. And now he basically has to throw the whole entire ritual away, which, yes, he does. But then throughout this scene, we do find out that he did relapse and he did smoke some weed. So, and I kind of had a feeling when he was talking on the camera, I was like, he still is not completely clean. I knew he wasn't out of it, but he definitely didn't seem sober. just because there's a clear difference when someone's on screen, and you could tell when someone's sober. And I was like, yeah, something's still there, and he does admit that he relapsed and he did smoke. And we see Mary's reaction, and Mary has the patience of Job, because the way that she was able to restrain her emotions, you saw the disappointment in her eyes, but she didn't do what she would have done in the past, because she actually even states in her confessional that she thinks her being a helicopter mom did not help and made him the way he is. Like, it was a contributing factor. And I don't think that's what it is, honestly. I think no matter what, unfortunately, when it comes to that kind of exposure, especially if you have that addiction gene in you, all it was going to take was one time for him to do something like this and enjoy it, whether she was a helicopter mom or kind of a standoffish mom, and this could have occurred. So, Mary, I want you to understand that no matter how, I understand you're trying to take some of the blame on how you parent him. His decision is still up to him. And she's even saying that too. She's like, at the end of the day, the decision is still up to him. I can't continue to try to control it because he is an adult. Because we also see that he's 21. So there really is nothing at this point she can do other than try her best to be a support system and try her best to not, enable. So she's trying not to enable, but it's going to take some time, and it's really sad and unfortunate. And we've heard some news since then that, he's still kind of in some legal trouble, but we don't know if that legal trouble is from stuff that he did prior to him going to rehab or if it's a continuation, because he was doing a whole bunch of stuff. He was into a lot of things, and he's like, now I'm just eating constantly, and I really want to go back to he basically says he wants to go back to doing it because he doesn't really know how to function outside of it, and he needs to find it. But I can tell Mary wanted to give him more advice and stuff, but she just was kind of stunned. You could tell she was stunned by the news that he relapsed because she was not expecting that. And it's really sad to see that, but hopefully they get some, there's some support there. And I don't know if there's any type of mentorship program he could basically be a part of to maybe help him stay clean. And I don't know how also the NA, which is like Narcotics Anonymous, I don't know how active that community is in the area, and if he's actively going to those type of things, but it might not hurt. But yeah, he definitely is going to need to find a new routine, because it sounds like all he did was go to that 30-day thing, and 30 days for how long he's been doing it, since he's been kind of doing it all throughout his formative years, doesn't seem like that's enough to really retrain his brain and reprogram how he thinks. And that is what's going to need to happen or for things to move on. So anyway, it was hard to see this scene. And fortunately, this was one of the only scenes that was kind of dark seeing this episode. But everything else was pretty light and funny. But this is necessary because in the end of the day, this is Mary's life and what she's going through. So yeah, I commend her for sharing this, and Robert Jr. also for sharing it. Like, he clearly wants to share his path of, moving forward. Him being an adult, he's basically clearly gave the okay for this. So it is what it is. Okay, so now this time we actually are at the party, and all the ladies are looking amazing. They're in their formal wear. I don't know what Mary's wearing, but we're just gonna leave it alone. Mary was the only one. I was just like, oh, Lord, what are you wearing, honey? Honey, what is this? But everyone else was looking amazing. Now, Heather, I don't care for you. I've never seen it for Heather all the way like that. But her body these days is tea. And that dress, that was probably the best I've ever seen Heather look when it came to a dress. She was looking good. I'm going to give her 10s on that. Anyway, so all the ladies are showing up one by one, and, with their husbands or significant others. Brittany's there, Jared's there. Yeah, the whole gang's there. And I have a feeling we're going to see some previews for the next episode. It's going to continue at this party. But this party was funny to me. And this is the first party where we're getting Lisa in a group event. So this is a big deal. So Lisa does show up. She's the last to show up, of course. And she goes directly to Meredith to kind of figure out her version of the events of what happened while she was not there at the trip. Meredith kind of does explain, hey, there were some things that occurred. And she was being more like neutral about it. Honestly, I don't think it would have escalated as crazily to Lisa as it did if Meredith was the one to explain what happened. Because Meredith made it sound like you just needed to patch things up. There are some talks about your lawsuit. She kind of was the more neutral version of what happened. And really, honestly, probably the more truthful version and not the 20 on 10. Because, like, to me, Heather put 20 on 10, but she really only put 20 on 10 towards Bronwyn. And then pretty much ignored, Angie, Kay, and Whitney's involvement, even though they all three were just gassing it. And left Mary completely. Like, everyone left Mary out of it, which for obvious reasons, because Mary ain't got nothing to do with it for real. Because Mary was more the neutral one in this whole entire back and forth, but she's like more on the other side of neutral, whereas Meredith is on the side of Lisa neutral. You know, a spectrum of being neutral. Like, no one's in the middle. Like, there's like a spectrum, if that makes sense. But anyway, so then while all this is happening, Brittany comes to talk to Lisa, interjects and puts a whole entire battery in her back, but mainly towards Angie K. And basically states that Angie K, which did happen, but the context was missing. Angie K comparing Lisa and what she has going on with these lawsuits to Jen Shaw. Instead of saying it like that, she said that she told her like she was comparing her to Jen Shaw, period. And so of course, yeah, like I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, of course, Lisa's upset. She's like, okay, I'm gonna confront her right now. As all this is going on, the other side, because it is giving click, like the other side, the other clique that's kind of there talking. It's like you see Whitney, Angie K, Mary, Bronwyn. They're all like, like we're being talked about over there. Oh my gosh, okay. While we have the others on the other side here. And so Lisa immediately goes to confront Angie K. And Angie K came in with peace for the most part. She was not, elevated. She was just very much like, so what did Brittany say to you so I can clean it up? Because we already know how it goes. And as this is happening and Lisa's trying to go off and not really, but Angie K ain't really giving her anything to be able to go off. Bronwyn chimes in. She's like, I don't even know why you're confronting Angie K. You're mad at me. You're not mad at Angie K. You're mad at me. And Lisa's like, you're dismissed. I don't even like you. I don't want to talk to you. Blah, blah, blah. But like Bronwyn was not having it. So while all this is happening over here on this side, we then go to the men who are in another room. And Seth is being messy and asking Jarrett if he loves Brittany and all the men. And he's like, And I was screaming. So Seth, this episode was kind of cracking me up. I ain't gonna hold you. He was funny to me this episode. He was still weird, but it's like he dialed back the weirdness. I don't know if like Next Gen NYC kind of gave him a little bit more confidence to not be so awkward in front of the camera and not be as weird. But this episode, Seth was cracking me up. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at Seth being messy. But anyway, so then back to the women. We then have Lisa. It's totally Lisa versus Bronwyn. And Lisa calls Bronwyn a gout dick sucker. And then in the confessional, all the women are just like, that doesn't even make any sense. Isn't gout what you like get on your foot? I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, so how can you be a gout? And they're just kind of going back and forth about it. And then all the other people who are not part of this show, they're just like at the party, are just getting a good cackle because Lisa, of course, is being her loud, obnoxious self, and Bronwyn's going back against her. But the thing that I noticed, what was getting me, is that Lisa's losing this fight. She's not winning. Bronwyn is eating her up. Because she was like, because then Lisa tries to put her finger in her face, and Bronwyn's like, don't you put your finger in my face. Don't do that. Don't do that. And Lisa's like, what, you're going to do the head knot now too? Like, she's just going off and like not making any sense. And Lisa's like, and Bronwyn's like, you could yell, you could do all the things you're doing, you could do all this stuff, but like, cash is going to be the only thing that clears up these lawsuits. Nothing else that you're doing here is going to clear up any of these lawsuits. And she is just having receipt after receipt after receipt going, like, just having a clapback after clapback after clapback. But that cash will clear up those lawsuits lying. I was like, that sent me. She's like, you need answer to the Amex card, not to me. I was like, Bronwyn just had the clapbacks ready to go. And Lisa didn't have anything to the end where she had to back up. She's like, I'm so disappointed. I'm so hurt. Oh my gosh. Like, that's how she was talking because she just could not. She was not winning with Bronwyn. Bronwyn was quick with it. Just quick. I was like, dang, Bronwyn's clapbacks. But anyway, that is how the episode ended. It was such a good episode to me. Let me know what you thought in the comments. But yeah, it was a very, very good episode. I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Looks like it's going to be good. But anyway, that does conclude my review. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel to get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner. And I will see you next time. Bye.